Welcome to the finale of Great Ace Attorney 2. To recap, we are defending Varric Van Zieks for the murder of Tobias Gregson, and through a lot of gameplay, we've learned a whole lot. We learned basically about the Reaper. We've learned oh god, we learned so much. The last thing we learned actually was that Sholmes' partner was actually Professor Mikotova and not Wilson, which was the big surprise at the end of last session. But today we are going to basically finish off the trial of Lord Varric Van Zieks for the murder of Gregson, and we'll definitely be going into the details of the professor case too. Just no video, just here you go. So, the time's finally come. Today, we unravel everything. I'll be counting on your support more than ever today, Miss Usato. Miss Usato? Guess we die. Oh no! What's the matter, Mr. Naruhodo? Nothing? I was just saying that I'll be relying on your support today, but... I'm so sorry. Of course. I know I can be rather incompetent at times, but... I shan't let you down. Would you mind helping me to my feet then? Oh dear. I'm really very sorry. Susato-san isn't her usual self at all. That's hardly surprising, I suppose. She's just found out that her father is the partner of a world-famous detective. Not to mention... good morning, sir. Lord Van Zieks. Thank you for all your efforts yesterday. What? Did I hear that correctly? What? No, nothing. Just... I hope we can clear things up today. I really can't make this man out. His face says, I hate you, but his words are almost jovial today. In fact, he hasn't been very Reaper-like at all since this all began yesterday. Lord Van Zieks isn't the Reaper, Mr. Naruhodo. Good point. The Reaper? I suppose in hindsight, I shouldn't have allowed that misconception to go unchallenged. Huh? It was my tacit acceptance of that pseudonym. My failure to stop the Reaper becoming something more than a mere legend that led to all this. But you're not to blame for that, Lord Van Zieks. It's only because serious crime in the capital dropped off so sharply when the public started calling you that. That's why you didn't say anything, isn't it? To be frank, I'm not sure that was the sole reason. What do you mean? There was a rumor at the time that the Reaper was really the ghost of my late brother. That having been slain by the evil killer, Clint's restless spirit returned as some sort of demigod, to wield a deadly blade of justice where I, by dint of the law, could not. Yes, well, we've heard that story too. When I lost him, I felt as though I'd lost my guiding light. I didn't know where to go, what to do. And so, in some small way, I wonder if perhaps those rumors made me feel his absence a little less keenly. Even if I knew it was just an illusion, just some nonsense conjured up by an over-imaginative public. He was obviously extremely important to you. Lord Clint Van Zeeks. Well, what's important now is uncovering the truth. That's all that matters. I know that you didn't take anyone's life. And I intend to prove that beyond a shadow of a doubt in court today. I never thought I'd say this, but I can see it in your eyes. That burning desire to cut through all the lies and the deception. I can't deny it any longer. You are a lawyer of absolute integrity. Thank you. Now tell me, why do I detect the scent of expensive tea leaves in the air? Oh, Iris, when did you get here? Oh. I brought you one of my special blends. Hurley loves it. He says it helps him to clear his head. I thank you. Oh. That's surely the first and last time I'll ever see a sight like this. You seem different today, Iris. Oh? Sort of subdued, I suppose. I am not. What happened yesterday is obviously still playing on her mind a lot. She's clearly very troubled about having stolen that autopsy report from Dr. Sitt's laboratory. Alright then. Good luck to you both. I have to make a move now. Oh, you're not staying. I thought you'd want to watch today's proceedings. Well, I'd like to cheer you on, obviously. But I've got lots to get ready. Get ready? For what? Oh, yes. Would you take this? Isn't that one of the little felt dolls that's usually dangling from your knapsack? Yes, it's a lucky charm. A little Hurley that I made once. Hurley? It looks more like a Hairley to me. Haha. If for some reason you completely run out of options in the trial today, then just pull this little Hurley's ears as hard as you possibly can. What? Pull his ears? Oh god, is it gonna make like a smoke bomb or something? That's right. It's a way to bring good luck. I think you might need it. Or crucial evidence that is hidden. You think what we'll need is luck? I just sneaked a peek inside the courtroom, and it seemed very different to normal. Yes, it would seem that a certain someone has decided to pull out all the stops. What does that mean? What about Mr. Sholmes, Iris? I don't know. He was out all night and he hadn't come home by the time I left this morning. Oh, I see. Was Professor Mikotoba out all night too, do you think, Miss Susato? Yes, it would seem so. I telegrammed the hotel this morning. And apparently they didn't come back to their rooms last night at all. They? Father and Judge Jigoku, I mean. Oh yeah, Judge Jigoku. We don't know what his role is going to be in this. Judge Jigoku too? That's right. Nobody appears to have seen either of them since yesterday.
Counsel for the defense and the defendant. Court is about to be in session. Please make your way inside the courtroom at once.
Good luck then, Bruno. Good luck, Susie. Yes. Thanks, Iris. And you, Mr. Reaper. I hope it goes well. Once again, I thank you for the delicious tea. It was very soothing. Oh, I'm so glad. We must go inside now, Lord Van Zeeks. Lord Van Zeeks has always been the formidable prosecutor I've had to lock horns with in court. But not today. Today, I battle with another in pursuit of the truth. My best friend, Kazuma Asogi, who I trust more than anyone else in the world. Now I understand what it was that drew me here to Britain all those months ago. Now I know exactly what destiny had in store for me. It's all been leading up to this one day, to this one trial, to this one final reckoning. It feels even more oppressive here than it did yesterday. There are cold stares piercing me like knives from all sides today. Ah! Mr. Naruto, look! Oh, Lord Strongheart! Kazuma must have known beforehand. The ramifications of this trial now extend far beyond the murder of one Scotland Yard inspector. In fact, events have come to light that threaten to rock the very foundations of our country's legal system. The escape of a condemned criminal on night of his execution, the subsequent unlawful shooting of the man, and the revelation that prison staff must have been complicit in the jailbreak. Britain is currently hosting influential members of the judiciary from countries all over the world. It is imperative that we uncover the truth in these proceedings to avoid international embarrassment. By royal decree, this will continue to be a closed trial, and one over which I, male Strongheart, exercise total and unequivocal authority. Why? The 6 jurors' flames just... As was the case in yesterday's proceedings, those here present in the public gallery are distinguished members of our judiciary assembled to bear witness to a fair judicial process. In other words, a collection of your acolytes, Lord Strongheart. On a personal note, I find this most distressing, Lord Van Zeeks. You were a prosecutor of exceptional talent. Much like your brother, Clint, in fact. Whoa. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. For the trial of Barrack Van Zeeks, who officially stands accused of murder. Counsels for the prosecution and defense, are you in full readiness to proceed? The defense is ready, my lord. As is the prosecution. Yesterday's proceedings brought to light a shocking and disturbing fact. There was a side to the victim, Inspector Tobias Gregson, that was unknown to his superiors at Scotland Yard. Yes, he was carrying out operations in secret, which Scotland Yard knew nothing about. And in those clandestine operations, he had an accomplice, Mr. Daily Vigil, who would be given the inspector's identification and present himself around the capital in order to establish credible alibis for Gregson. In that way, Gregson appeared to be carrying out his regular Scotland Yard work, when in fact he wasn't. At the end of yesterday's session, Mr. Vigil, who had been suffering from amnesia, regained his memory. It would appear he buried his memories of the time deep inside himself as a means of self-preservation, because whilst he was engaged as chief warder at Barclay Prison, he abetted the convict's escape. Mr. Vigil is currently recuperating at St. Sinners. He's recovered enough to give a signed statement about his movements on the day prior to the incident. He's formally admitted to posing as Gregson whilst investigating the Red-Headed League. Which brings us to the crucial state of the victim's time of death. The defense yesterday proposed a suggestion that the victim may have been killed one day earlier. This was based largely on the discovery that the victim's pocket watch had not been wound. The prosecution has something to report on that subject, my lord. Really? Go ahead, Prosecutor Asogi. I met once again with the coroner yesterday to discuss the issue. She confirmed that the defense's suggestion could not be ruled out. It's entirely possible that Inspector Gregson was killed on 31st October, the day before the body was discovered. I have here an updated autopsy report that includes the amended details. Ah yes, the classic updated autopsy report. But the official opinion of the investigation team was made clear yesterday that the time of death was 5 p.m. on 1st November. There are indications of an attempt to disguise the real time of death, however. It seems that the natural decaying process of the victim's body may have been slowed by keeping it chilled. That's out of the question. There are no refrigeration devices in that part of London large enough to accommodate a human corpse. My lord, this is more than just conjecture. There's evidence to support the idea. We must investigate it thoroughly. Very well. The court will accept the new report as evidence. However, if this updated report is deemed to be accurate, it would give renewed significance to the movements of the victim on the day before the Fresno Street incident. It would, yes, since on that day, Inspector Gregson was using Mr. Vigil to cover up his real movements. It's conceivable that he was killed in the course of his secret activities. Do I sense that the prosecution has some information regarding those activities? Scotland Yard put an enormous effort into investigating that precise matter yesterday. I think we should begin by presenting the results of that investigation work. So the prosecution calls its first witness now. State your name and occupation for the court. Inspector Gina Lestrade, reporting. Representative of Scotland Yard. A self-conferred rank, but never mind. Gina? Again? What's your problem, Odo? What's with that Gina again look, eh? The boss meant the world to me. He did more than me than anyone else ever did. No, Inspector Gregson, you mean? He got me out of the back slums of the East End and took me under his wing. Taught me that life can have purpose. So that's why I'm the best person to be standing here speaking for him. Oh, Gina. Right. All out of the goodness of Gregson's heart. Not at all that he had his arm twisted by Mr. Sholmes. No. What's relevant to these proceedings is that the outcome of Scotland Yard's investigations yesterday has revealed that the victim was carrying out some assignment the police knew nothing about. Very troubling. That face. Lord Strongheart knew. So, Inspector Lestrade, let's hear exactly what it says in that report. Coming right up, sir. All Yard detectives are supposed to follow orders and investigate what they're told. But a little search of the boss's office turned up a notebook that had a load of secret meetings in it. According to that, the boss was looking into some smuggled goods dealings that day. Looks like it was a big job and all, but the coppers weren't onto it yet. What matters most is, there's witnesses what saw the Reaper at the place too. Smuggled goods? I don't know, do I? I'm just telling you what was written in the book. Tobacco, tea, spices, medicines, goods of all sorts flow into London by illegal channels from across the globe. It's well known that they're disposed of at regular black markets that take place in the capital. But the police are rarely able to locate them in time. So Inspector Gregson was investigating one of those black markets? It's been suggested that high-ranking government officials may be involved in black market activity. No doubt Gregson was trying to avoid details of his investigations being leaked to the involved parties. That would explain why he was operating on his own authority without the Yard's knowledge. And do we know where the dealings were taking place this time? In a particular room of a certain exclusive London gentleman's club. And on the day in question, the accused is known to have been there. That's the conclusion of Scotland Yard's investigation into the matter. That can't be. We haven't heard of anything about any of this. Members of the club have testified to it. There's no question. The accused, Beric Van Zieks, was present. That would be very significant testimony then. Oh my, but Lord Van Zieks made no mention of this at all. In short, Lord Van Zieks had ample opportunity to murder the victim. Very well then. Counsel for the defense, begin your cross-examination.
Hold it!
So, you follow orders, do you, Gina? Nah, not me. I'm above all that, see? Oh. The boss always had special orders for me. Grab us some fish and chips or go give Toby his grub. That kind of thing. So, errands more than orders then. This detective is still an apprentice after all. Yeah, well, this apprentice ain't want to sit around and wait to be told what to do, even by the boss. That's why I've been doing my own investigation into what happened. I didn't find much at first.
Hold it!
So you went through Inspector Grigson's things? Yep, as part of the independent Lestrade investigation. I'm sure your superiors would be delighted to hear that you're taking the initiative. So I snuck into his office when no one else was about. Because if anyone at the yard had seen me going in there, they'd have turfed me straight out on the street. This is sounding less and less like an investigation, and more like something else. The prosecution understands that it was this very detective who discovered the notebook. You got that right. Nothing gets past Inspector Lestrade and her trusty assistant, Chief Inspector Toby. We found it hidden in one of the desk drawers that added a false bottom. That's impressive. So then I went to hide myself where no one could find me, so I could have a butcher's at what was written in it. Because if anyone at the yard had found me out, they'd have turfed me straight out on the street. I've given it in now, though, ain't I? And more for me, it wouldn't never have been found.
Hold it!
Do you have any idea where those dealings were taking place? Yep. It was all there in the boss's notes. Let's see if I can remember. As I already said, the illegal dealings were due to take place at a gentleman's club. Yes, I remember. But I was hoping to find out the name of the club. That won't be necessary. What? It's conceivable that the club might be used again by the smugglers in the future. Therefore, the prosecution has been asked to not reveal the name in these proceedings. I don't know what the fuss is about. It's right here. All I gotta do is read it out. And I could too. I got this reading game buttoned up now. Can I show you what I can do? Come on, go on. What's the arm? The judge hasn't signaled his objection yet. I could try to find out. What should I do? Sure. This is a closed court. The proceedings are confidential. There shouldn't be any possibility of the information being leaked. As I explained, there's some possibility of politicians being involved in this affair. The prosecution is rightfully exercising caution, I imagine. No, my lord. The prosecution has no objection. Kazuma? There's no question that Inspector Grigson was looking into these black market dealings. However, it's not yet been established that he was on that particular trail on the day in question. If the defense requires to know the club's name, the prosecution has no intention of being obstructive. Right then, I get to show off me reading skills. Apparently, the smuggled goods deal was going to happen at a gentleman's club called the Grouse.
Hold it!
The Grouse? What sort of a club is that? I ain't got the foggiest. Clubs ain't exactly my thing, but I am kind of curious. They're not places where a foreign student like you would be readily admitted. Have you looked in the mirror recently? I'll tell you what, me and Chief Inspector Toby could go in undercover. Could you though? I could pick up a few good marks and see what else I could find out while I was in there. I really don't think you should go picking out anything. Anyway, that's where these black market dealings were going to take place, is it? Yeah, it's gotta be. That's what the lower ranking detectives at the yard reckon. Says the even lower ranking detective.
Hold
So how had Inspector Gregson come to find out about it in that case? That's the question, ain't it? But I'm just an apprentice, so... And why didn't he inform Scotland Yard of his findings? Yeah, that's what I was asking myself. Cause, you know, I'm just an apprentice. When it suits you, yes. Anyway, the point is, something went on at that club, no question. You can't say that for certain, though, surely.
Hold it!
Lord Van Zieks was at the club? He was. Detectives who visited the club yesterday to make inquiries have confirmed it. Several members report having seen the accused being admitted to the room in question as a guest. It looks like there's no disputing that he was there then. Well, we know that Lord Van Zieks was investigating Inspector Gregson, don't we? Perhaps he'd already discovered the Inspector's secret notebook. Which led him to the club, you mean? Maybe. Presumably then, there are also eyewitnesses who can testify that Gregson was there? None have been identified at the time, no. So the all-important victim wasn't seen at this mysterious club. Oi! Why ain't you asking Inspector Lestrade here, eh? So that's all I've got to work with. Gina's not holding back with an ice-cold stare of hers, is she? I really don't know what to make of all this. Lord Van Zieks told us that he was investigating Inspector Gregson, but he never once mentioned that he met the inspector the day before the incident. You don't think Lord Van Zieks could have been lying to us, do you? That's not the only way to explain this. Oh, if everything Lord Van Zieks had told us is true, then there must be a mistake in his testimony somewhere. You mean, there are details we have yet to uncover? Exactly. A clue, perhaps, that even Gina hadn't noticed. That's what we should be looking for here. Alright, let's look at the evidence. We have 3 pages. What if I talk to the ears now? What a charming little rabbity version of Mr. Sholmes. Do you suppose this is how Iris sees him? Are you alright, Mr. Naruhodo? Your eyes are veritably boring into the poor doll's ears. Oh, sorry. I was just wondering. What do you suppose would happen if I were to tug its ears with all my might right now? I'm sure that we'll find out when the time is right. To become a proper gentleman, you must really learn some stoic patience. But I want to know. Dang, I want to know. Alright, this is Clint's autopsy report. Here's the updated autopsy report. Let's see. Trying to remember all the details here. There's a gash on this side, there's blood on this side. We found the passport to France on the other side. Or inside, I mean. None of these things are useful. I guess I can read this again. Look, there's something inside. Ooh, let's see. It appears to be a passport, authorizing him to travel overseas. Was Inspector Gregson about to go on a trip abroad then? Perhaps the date of departure might tell something. That was... Oh! What is it? It was for travel on 31st October, just one day before the incident. What? Really? Gregson went to France the day before his body was discovered? Okay. Gentlemen's Club. Coppers weren't on to it yet. Witnesses. Let's see. What do we have? What do we have? Like, why do we have this though? Oh god. The gun, the wig, figure. Official warrant card. That's his ID. Coppers weren't onto it yet. Is that true? Okay, so I think can I contest this? Is it the Reaper that they saw? Like, what does the line after say again? Let's see. They never met the inspector before. Never mentioned that he met the inspector day of an incident. If everything Lord Venzi's told us is true, then there must be a mistake. What does this say? Details of cases. I hate that everything is uncheck marked because this is a new case. Yeah, we know that's not the case. Like, this won't be relevant for a bit, I think. Let's see. I don't think that's relevant. see.
Hold it!
Oh, back. Let's see. That's the place where the black market dealings are taking place. Supposedly. Do I have anything that says like the name of that establishment? The first testimony, I'm already stumped, but I'm also not warmed up at all. Vigil.
Hold it!
Something went on at the club. Oops. A clue, perhaps. Like, we got the name of the place, but I don't know. Is that a red herring?
Hold it!
Like, okay, the end. We want to. We need to stop. We need to figure out why witnesses say they saw the Reaper at this place. It seems like that is what the end of testimony hint is saying. And we're supposed to use it using some kind of clue, which could be the name of this place, I suppose. Let's very thoroughly look at all the evidence so I understand what's happening here. Okay, the picture. It's him. Letter of introduction. Alright, picture. A gun. The hairpiece. I don't feel like this should not be relevant anymore. The candle too. This is, let's see. Gregson's body. The crime scene floor plan. Can't really interact with that. Forget that. I don't think this can be useful anymore either. It's ID, which, I mean, there shouldn't be anything different. Let's see what it looks like inside. And it's just his ID. Numbers are correct. Let's see. Is there any information here? I like want to use the new evidence, you know. Like, is this a paper? Is like that different from this? Oh. No, that's just the metal part of the case that's been cut through. Oops. Nothing here. Yeah. And this is blood. Alright, let's open this bad boy up again, I guess. Okay, so one thing I expect here is the passport. The lid is not a thing. Got some clothes, some books, some bottles. Oh, I see. I don't think this is relevant now, but we can now inspect this. Do you see that? There's something stuck on the side of the trunk there. It's glinting. It looks like a fragment of metal of some sort, but it's wedged in so tightly I can't remove it. Well, don't cut yourself. You'd better leave it, I think. Oh. Didn't update it, but I suppose it's new information. It's a piece of metal. All right, let's see. Okay, I looked up. Was I down? I looked up a solution for expediency purposes. I gotta drop frames, so must have been a Twitch issue. I looked up the solution, and this is the solution. Because I did not want to reinspect every single piece of evidence. Well, I mean, did you expect this was the answer? I mean, what have you wanted me to try? Yeah, normally passport on what? Are you trying to say that he left on that day? Because that's not true. the passport just says that he can leave within 1 week of that day. He didn't leave that day. If that's what you were getting at. But yeah, normally when like important information is usually in the text right here. Like usually here, so that's what I was looking for, and it was not here, so.
Objection!
I read about these clubs that exist in Britain. As I understand it, they're places where well-to-do gentlemen socialize with friends and colleagues. Don't imagine for the second that a foreign student like you would be admitted. Seriously, is your mirror cracked or something? Do we know for sure that the contraband dealings were definitely happening at a club called The Grouse? The police are currently looking for evidence, but haven't found anything definitive yet. And I'm sorry to say, they probably won't. What do you mean by that? I mean that the place Inspector Gregson was secretly going to visit on 31st October may not have been a gentleman's club at all. You're showing a very irrelevant attitude towards our country's police force there, Counsel. If it wasn't a gentleman's club, then what was it? A steamship. You think it's a ship? I have the evidence to prove it. Here. Let me see that. This dark-suited young man is not in the least bit untrustworthy. The other side, my lord. Be more specific next time. Ah, this would appear to be a ticket for a passage upon a steamship, yes. The SS Grouse.
Objection!
So there's a steamship named the Grouse that happens to share a name with the club. But I'm afraid to say, there's a flaw in your logic there. How? Look at the ticket. Notice the date of arrival in port. The ship arrived at the port of Dover on 1st November. Ah, the day in which the sound like a gunshot was heard on Fresno Street. In other words, on the day in question here, 31st October, when the victim was on his clandestine mission, that steam hadn't yet docked on British shores. That would certainly make an undercover investigation somewhat challenging.
Objection!
So I'll say it again. It doesn't say it here. It doesn't say it on the picture. You have to investigate it to show you the name of the ship. The fact that the steamship hadn't yet reached Britain substantiates the defense's assertion that the victim was investigating the SS Grouse on the day in question. Then show your evidence for that assertion. Very well. In that case, counsel for the defense, present your evidence to the court now. Evidence that substantiates your claim that the victim was investigating the SS Grouse on 31st October. Yeah, he's using his cane. Now it's the passport. What's this? A passport for travel issued to the victim. Dated 31st October. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that just 1 day before the inspector's body was discovered, there's a distinct possibility he wasn't even in the country. Order! Order! This document is for passage to France. It does appear to have been officially authorized. The day before the SS Grouse arrived in Dover, it docked on the northern coast of France for a night. According to my father, who was on board at the port of Dunkirk. Dunkirk, France. What could possibly have taken the victim there? I'm impressed, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. I certainly didn't expect you to get your hands on that passport. What? You mean, you knew about this? The prosecution strategy for this trial has been laid out by the Crown Prosecution Office. On the day before the incident, the victim was investigating contraband dealings at a London club. That's the outcome of Scotland Yard's investigations, and the line the prosecution has been asked to follow. But personally, I don't agree. I think the prosecutor's office is just trying to hide something. What? And now that you've expertly disproven their assertion, I intend to reveal what I believe that something to be. What are you playing at, Prosecutor Asogi? A courtroom is a forum for the truth, my lord. Which is why it's my duty to present all the facts, without exception. Let me guess. This was your intention from the outset, wasn't it? The reason Inspector Gregson secretly made his way to the steamship docked in France on the day in question was to carry out a mission for the Reaper. The Reaper? Order! What on earth are you saying, counsel? The prosecution made an assertion in court yesterday. Inspector Gregson was investigating the identity of the Reaper. When he discovered the location of the man's secret hideout, he was killed. As I'm sure everyone can imagine, by the Reaper's hand. But in reality, the truth is the opposite of that. What? Inspector Gregson wasn't investigating the Reaper at all. He was, in fact, acting for the Reaper. So, you're saying the mission he was undertaking was, obviously, an assassination. Beric Van Zieks never carried out any of the actual killings. Whenever the Reaper's victims lost their lives, he always had a cast iron alibi. Which tells us that he must have had an accomplice. And you claim that was Inspector Gregson. Well, what the hell you think you're saying, eh? My boss would never have done nothing like that. And yet, when you consider all the facts, it all makes perfect sense. No, it can't be. We also arrived at the same conclusion, didn't we? That Inspector Gregson was operating as the Reaper. Even so, there's no way that the person giving him his orders was Lord Van Zieks. No, the true Reaper is somebody else. Beric Van Zieks is not the Reaper. A predictable response from someone who's advocating for the man. And even if it's true that Gregson was operating as an agent of the Reaper, the suggestion that he went aboard the SS Grouse on an assassination mission doesn't fall at all. No, you have some solid reason for doubting the assertion, do you, counsel? Absolutely. It's very simple. On the day in question, nobody was killed aboard that steamship. Professor Mikotoba and Judge Jigoku were on that very ship. If someone had been assassinated, I'm certain we would have heard about it. What's so funny? You're right, of course. No suspicious deaths were reported on board the ship. But I think perhaps you've missed the point. That's precisely why Inspector Gregson himself lost his life. What? Gregson did board the SS Grouse that night with the intention of dispatching his mark. But his mission ended in failure. Failure? It seems that the defense hasn't yet grasped a very important detail here. What are you talking about? What detail? Inspector Gina Lestrade. What? The victim's notebook that you read an excerpt from earlier. That doesn't contain details of his secret investigations at all. It describes 10 years of assassination plots to be carried out by the Reaper of the Bailey. You're lying. Even if all them bludgers what got taken out had it coming. The boss weren't the Reaper. Poor Gina. There's no question that Tobias Gregson was heavily involved in the Reaper's activities. You may just be an apprentice, but if you spent any time at Scotland Yard, you must have heard rumors. I ain't heard nothing, and I don't believe a word of it. Then testify again. As a representative of Scotland Yard, consider it your chance to defend your boss. I don't... I concur. The witness will give a new form of testimony. Miss Lestrade, you will tell the court everything you know about Inspector Gregson's secret notebook. Hold up. Gonna change. Ugh. So I unplugged my microphone. And I think I plugged in the wrong USB slots. I think the volume is slightly wrong. Yeah. The volume is wrong. Test. There we go. Yeah. That should be better. That should be better. Somewhere around here, I think. Yeah, okay. Yeah, the volume was double what it was supposed to be in Windows settings. So should be okay now. Yeah, this notebook does have a load of stuff about what the Reaper got up to these past 10 years. Names of victims, dates and places and stuff. And the last entry in there was 31st October. It said grouse for the place on that date, and then the name of the mark. There was a note about him being a criminal what got away from the Reaper in court 10 years ago, somewhat. But honest, the boss didn't do none of it. He was just investigating the Reaper, that's all. Keep personal opinion out of your testimony, witness. We require only established fact here. This must be so hard for her. You can't deny it now, surely, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. What can't I deny? The notebook contained the name of the final mark, and the location where the assassination would take place. That's information that the victim could only have known if he was working with the Reaper. So, who was to be this final mark? Go ahead, Inspector Lestrade. Read the name for the court. The name that's written alongside the entry that mentions the grouse on 31st October. Oh, how do you read this then? Reading's still not her strong suit. That ain't the problem, alright, Odo. It's a funny name. It ain't English. It's hard to read. So it's someone from overseas. Let me have a bash at it. Ishiro, is it? Yeah, Seishiro. You maybe? What? It can't be. Seishiro Jigoku? But that's Judge Jigoku. Seishiro Jigoku. Certainly not an English name, you're right.
Objection!
But that can't be right. I know Judge Jigoku, and I saw him the day before yesterday, here in London. So I know for the fact the man hasn't been assassinated. As I said, the Reaper failed. Oh. Gregson missed his chance to kill his mark and return to British shores. But the Reaper wouldn't tolerate the mistake, so he killed the inspector personally. The Reaper, of course, being the accused, Barrick Van Zeeks. It's an undeniably logical argument. Kazuma, you planned for the trial to go this way all along, didn't you?
Hold it!
Whoa. Pray forgive the discourtesy of filling my hollow chalice whilst I stand accused of murder. Lord Van Zeeks! The accused has no right to speak uninvited in court. You will return to the dock. I say nothing of whether or not I'm the Reaper. That's the task of this court to decide. But there's one thing I can say unequivocally. That girl is no detective. Eh? What? Nah, that's right. I ain't. I'm an inspector. Repeating rumors heard around the yard. Reading entries from a notebook of unconfirmed origin. That's not testimony. It's practically a script. No doubt the rest of this trial will go exactly as you've clearly planned. Your hatred of me is understandable. In your mind, I'm sure I am the Reaper, who sent your father to the gallows all those years ago. But you're in danger of becoming a far more sinister Reaper yourself, by attempting to have me condemned with this feeble excuse for testimony. What did you say? Mr. Naruhodo, this is our chance. My lord, the defense requests that the defendant be allowed to speak. He may be privy to important information relating to the testimony just given by the witness. Very well. I'll make an exception and grant the request. The defendant may remain in the witness stand for the cross-examination. And allow me to toast the court's impartiality. Don't raise your glass in my direction, sir. Counsel for the defense, begin the cross-examination immediately. At once, my lord.
Hold it!
In other words, it shows that Gregson was basically acting as the Reaper. Not you and all. That ain't the only explanation, is it? You could have been investigating the Reaper in secret. And that notebook said what he found out. If I may. When originally people began referring to me as the Reaper, I didn't object. I believe the power to intimidate London's criminal classes into compliance with the law to be beneficial. But you carried out your own investigations into the true identity of the Reaper, didn't you? Yes. And those investigations proved conclusively that Gregson was one arm of the Reaper. One arm? What are you on about? The Reaper's victims were all extremely shrewd criminals at the top of their game. There's simply no way one person could have taken them on alone. The Reaper is an organization. With you at its head? I had spies at the yard keeping me abreast of Gregson's movements, letting me know when he was elsewhere. So I'd been able to check the most recent entry in his book. I knew the location. You knew it said grouse? Believing it to be a reference to the Gentleman's Club, I went there on the day in question to investigate, alone. Ah, so that explains why several members of the club claimed to have seen you there. But of course, the inspector was not there. Because at the time, he was making his way to the steamship docked on the northern coast of France, as shown by the passport found in the victim's metal trunk. Very well then, back to your testimony about the contents of this notebook. Fine. Is something wrong, Mr. Naruhodo? You seemed a little shocked by something a moment ago. Oh, no, it's alright. I'm overthinking this, aren't I? Names of victims, dates, places, and stuff? What in particular? Well, besides the victims' names, this other name kept cropping up. What other name was that? It's the one I told you yesterday. The same name, written over and over again. You mean... Issa Shin? Yeah, that's the one. She a friend of yours or something, ain't she? Were you even listening yesterday? Issa Shin... The assassin. This one like text box on screen, just like, in case you didn't realize what this name means, here it is. What? Like a killer, you mean? Gregson was the tactician, the one who came up with the plan of attack. He investigated the marks thoroughly, finding out when they would be vulnerable and who to use to get at them. But the person executing his plans was someone else, you're saying? If that's true, then the Reaper does indeed start to sound like an organized group of vigilantes. Then perhaps what it said on the passport document. Permission for the applicant and one additional person to travel. Could that additional person have been... Clearly, the assassin, who was meant to take Seishiro Jigoku's life. Gina, can you confirm that? Against the final entry that listed Grouse and Seishiro Jigoku, what name was written? Oh, well, that's the only entry that didn't have a name next to it, as it happens. What? It just had like a question mark or something up there, I think. In other words, Gregson himself didn't know the identity of the assassin in that case. But Gregson was the one making the plans, was he not? Oh, how infuriating. A nameless assassin?
Hold it!
And you're saying that the mark listed was Seishiro Jigoku? That's what it said. Funny name, if you ask me. And I thought your name was odd. So pleased I've lost my crown there. Mr. Jigoku is the presiding judge of Japan's Supreme Court of Judicature. I remember the man. He came to our country as a visiting student 16 years ago, studying international law and diplomacy under your tutelage, Lord Strongheart. That bearded young fellow was a very able man, I must say. So Lord Strongheart was Judge Jigoku's mentor. If I'm not mistaken, he returned to Japan 10 years ago now. 10 years ago, after that fateful case. Precisely. In the aftermath of the professor case, his repatriation was organized immediately. It's a mystery why such a man would be listed in the inspector's notebook. I didn't think it was possible, but the mood in here has got even worse now. Maybe I'll just keep talking.
Hold it!
What do you mean a criminal? Judge Jigoku is no criminal. Well, don't ask me. I don't know nothing about it. Oh, do you remember what Father told us? That Judge Jigoku did appear once in court here in Britain. It was related to the professor case, I'm sure. Yes, of course. You're right. Seishiro was trying to mitigate Genshin's guilt, so he took to the stand to testify. But he got a little carried away and, actually managed to break the witness stand. He also said some contemptuous words about the British Empire, for which he was charged. It was a pitiful situation, yes. I'd forgotten all about it, but I prosecuted that trial too, as it happens. You did? He was considered to be an adjunct to the professor proceedings, you see. But he was acquitted after being told to make reparation for the damage caused to the stand. And there you have it. Have what? Surely the accused hasn't forgotten his own rule. That there's no saving anyone who faces the Reaper in court, guilty or innocent alike. What? No! Are you suggesting that the reason Judge Jigoku was targeted for assassination... The man was sent back to Japan immediately after that trial. The Reaper had no time to do his work. But then, 10 years later, the mark returns to Britain once more. Perhaps now you start to see just how vindictive the Reaper is. Come on, that's absurd. To take someone's life for that? Isn't the whole premise of the Reaper absurd? Killing those who have been found innocent? Clearly the rules by which the man operates are beyond a sane person's comprehension. But... Right, I've had just about enough of this. Gina? All this nonsense about the boss plan to kill people. It's cobbler's. Come on, Odo. Yes? Why ain't you saying nothing? Why ain't you yelling out objection or something? What? You gotta find a flaw. You do usually. Someone's lying here, no question. You gotta work out who it is. Please, before the boss. That outburst was an insult to the court and to your own testimony. I might have known that a common pickpocket from the back slums couldn't make a detective. When this trial's over, you will forfeit your warrant card, Mr. Lestrade. Is that clear? I've had it with the lot of you. It's all lies every bleeding place you look in this world, isn't it? Well, I've had enough. Gina. So have I. After that little speech of Gina's, I've made up my mind. To do what, Mr. Naruto? There was one point in this cross-examination when something that was said just didn't sit right with me. One statement that seemed odd. Oh, do you mean... I'm not going to let Gina's plea for help fall on deaf ears. This is testimony? Alright.
Hold it!
I want to thank you, Gina. You helped me find my resolve. Eh? What do you mean? Amongst everything we've seen or we've heard from this during this cross-examination, there's one thing that defies explanation. One inconsistency. What? An inconsistency? Really, Odo? I don't quite know what it means yet, but... Yes, there's an inconsistency in something that was said by... I think back. I think... So we had problem with when Kazuma presented, where Kazuma talked about the passport. Like we had like a bit of a wavering there. I think it's because we're wondering like how did he know the passport was in there, right? If Gina had like taken it and like only put it back like very late. So maybe like the passport's fake evidence or something, which is a recurring theme in the series.
Take that!
By you, Kazuma Asogi. Me? Is this some attempt at filibustering, counsel? Prosecutor Asogi has given no testimony. What are you suggesting that I said was inconsistent? You let something slip that you shouldn't have. When I present the relevant piece of evidence, I imagine you realize what you've done. Very well then, counsel. Go ahead. What evidence reveals this alleged inconsistency in something Prosecutor Asogi has said?
Take that!
So, my initial impressions were correct. This is nonsense. You accuse your best friend and back it up with that? Clearly, the Ryunosuke Naruhodo I knew was dead. Struck down by my best friend. I believe what you intended to point out, Miss Naru, was when Kazuma said... Because at the time, he was making his way to the steamship docked on the northern coast of France, as shown by the passport found in the victim's metal trunk. Yes, that's exactly it. I take it from your expression that you're not going to let this go. Correct, my lord. I made a mistake, that's all. What he's suggesting I said was inconsistent. Yeah. Do I have to present the trunk?
that!
Yes. This... God. Alright, fine. It's fine. It's fine. This is a trunk that belonged to Inspector Gregson. A metal construction, is it? It's surely very heavy. What's this? A bloodstain. And a relatively fresh one, too. What? You do mean that ain't grease from all the boss's fish and chips? Fresh blood on the inspector's trunk. That suggests that the victim was traveling without luggage when he was killed. That can't be. There was no mention of any trunk in Scotland Yard's report. Yes, there's a reason for that. Immediately after the inspector's body was discovered, one of the street peddlers made off with the trunk, hoping to sell it. But I found it. Me, would be nailed for trouble. Which means that nobody should have known anything about the trunk. Unless, of course, we're talking about somebody who was present when the victim was killed. And yet, during the cross-examination of the witness just now, you said this, Kazuma. Because at the time, he was making his way to the steamship docked on the northern coast of France, as shown by the passport found in the victim's metal trunk. Oh, is the word metal trunk? So the question is, how did you know about the inspector's trunk? I see. We know the man went on a trip to France. Where else could he have put his passport?
Objection!
But you knew it was a metal trunk. Answer me honestly, Kazuma. On 31st October, where exactly were you? At the port of Dunkirk, on board the SS Grouse. Is that the answer you're looking for, Ryunosuke? Kazuma, what did you... He didn't say yes. I hadn't considered the possibility before, but if Kazuma was there on the ship, then it can only have been for one purpose. Oh no, Miss Naruhodo. Surely you don't think... Come on, Ryunosuke. You know the rules. The only thing that really talks in the courtroom is hard evidence. As I understand it, Inspector Gregson always took that case with him when he traveled. So as it stands, you've proven nothing. Kazuma, are you challenging me to prove it beyond all reasonable doubt? That you were there that day, in the same place as the inspector? He was there, with Gregson. There's a clue you've overlooked, a secret that trunk can tell us. I can't be sure at this point. I'll need to verify it. I have a nasty feeling I'm going to be right. So is the metal bit his sword? The accusation being made is deeply disturbing, but nevertheless, we must test it. The defense will identify for the court where in the trunk there's alleged clues to be found. Where is the evidence that ties Prosecutor Asogi to Inspector Gregson? Can I open it? Let's have a look inside. Ooh, oh, too fast. I better not have to investigate this guy. I'm just gonna present
Got
it.
it!
There's a small piece of metal lodged in the wall of the trunk here, like the tip of a blade. Eh? A blade? Kazuma, slung around your waist as ever today, is the esteemed blade Karuma. Of course it is. Won't you draw it here in this courtroom for all to see? Exercise caution, my learned friend. That man is the son of London's most notorious killer. Bailiff, watch Inspector Asogi like a hawk. That won't be necessary. Oh no! The tip is broken. If the fragment of metal from the trunk fits together with the end of the sword, the question of who was there with Inspector Gregson will be answered. Agreed, Kazuma Asogi? Expertly done, Rinosuke. That's a point to you, and well deserved.
Do you mean to tell the court, Prosecutor Sogi?
Yes, on 31st October, I accompanied Inspector Gregson to Dunkirk in order to carry out a mission. So the additional person authorized to travel was me.
And the mission was?
The assassination of the Mark. What? What? You mean you're the killer whose name was omitted from this notebook? You were following the Reaper's orders to dispatch Judge Shigoku? Let me make one thing perfectly clear. I have killed no one. Explain. I accepted the assassination mission, yes, and I accompanied Gregson to Dunkirk, but I never had any intention of carrying out the plan. You were never going to do it? We can believe Kazuma-sama, I'm sure. After all, Judge Shigoku arrived safely in London the following day. On the 31st, I boarded a train from London with Inspector Gregson. We traveled to Dover, from where we crossed the channel to Dunkirk. Then we boarded the SS Grouse and made for the cabin deck, as indicated in the plan. You went to Judge Shigoku's cabin? Exactly. He wasn't there, though. We decided to wait, but you've already told us you had no intention of going through with it anyway. I didn't come to Great Britain to take anyone's life, so I left Gregson and disembarked the ship. I spent that night at a boarding house in the town and returned to England the following morning. A boarding house in Dunkirk? My signature will be in the register book. It would be simple enough to verify. Then, what became of Jigoku? Gregson was no assassin, so the mark was spared. I'm sure it's easy enough to imagine what happened after that. Gregson returned to England as well, having failed to complete the mission. He met with the Reaper in that room on Fresno Street to report the failure, causing the infuriated mastermind to pull the trigger and end his wretched agent's life. That's the real truth behind Inspector Gregson's murder.
Objection!
But if you did nothing as you claim, how did the tip of your sword come to be lodged in the inspector's trunk? I don't need to answer that. What? The victim was killed by a gunshot. A small fragment of a Japanese blade isn't relevant to the case. And accordingly, I choose to exercise my right to silence on that matter. Be that as it may, the court will sequester the sword as evidence. As you wish, my lord. I have to investigate the sword. We must take immediate action now. Oh no, page 4. Karuma, the great blade, is such a thing of beauty. I want to gaze on it for hours. The tip of the great sword, broken. It's such a shame. It's been so meticulously cared for over the years. I can almost hear Karuma's sobs. Karuma must have really taken a swing for that to happen. There's no secret evidence hidden. We must take immediate action now to verify whether Seishio Jigoku remains unharmed. What? Remains unharmed? I agree. That should be our first priority. It's recently come to my attention that he hasn't been seen since yesterday. How did you... When a foreign dignitary invited to Great Britain goes missing for 24 hours, it's only natural that the question of his safety should arise. Do you don't mean to say that you think Judge Jigoku may have been killed? The Reaper has more than one assassin at his disposal, and he has the power and influence to give orders from the inside of a prison cell. Isn't that right, Lord Van Zeeks? If I were truly the Reaper, I'd be able to tell you.
Order! Order! Order in the court! Order! We will take an emergency recess for 30 minutes.
Now?
Guests of the symposium have been told to maintain regular contact with the organizer's office. If the man can't be located within half an hour, we will have to assume the worst.
Oh no, not Judge Jigoku.
No one would want to kill a harmless Japanese man who'd only just arrived in the country.
Except, that is, for the Reaper wanting to finish off a mark that slipped through the net 10 years ago.
I would have to agree. Mr. Naruhodo, for the defense's sake...
My lord?
I sincerely hope we are successful. If we are unable to confirm Mr. Jigoku's healthy existence in the next 30 minutes, you will face grave difficulties. Court is adjourned for 30 minutes.
Kazuma-sama, the Reaper's assassin. I feel as though I'm in a nightmare. I can hardly believe it either. But on the other hand, Kazuma isn't in the habit of making up stories. I have such a terrible sense of foreboding. If something awful has happened to Judge Jigoku, then I feel as though things will only spiral further and further out of control. I felt it from the moment I stepped into the courthouse this morning. A strange sensation that we were careering towards a foregone conclusion. Well, in the worst case, we might only have 30 minutes left. Unfortunately, though, I don't think there's anything we can do but wait now. We're out of options. Actually, there may be one last hand we can play. Or rather, one last ear. Of course! The little Sholmes doll that Iris gave us. I think this track played at the beginning of this case. Because the one at the beginning of this case was also different. Like in the antechamber. If for some reason you complete round of options in the trial today, then just pull this little Hurley's ears as hard as you possibly can. Perhaps now is the time. What should I do? Pull Hurley's ears or not? Oh yeah. Here goes then. I'm going to do it. Good luck, Mr. Naruhodo. No looking back. Heave! Ow! That scream. It sounded like Mr. Sholmes. Mr. Sholmes? Where are you? Here, my dear fellow. Here. It's the felt doll talking. Pull the ears again, Mr. Naruhodo. As hard as you can. Alright then. I'll put all my strength into it. Heave! Ow! Please, my dear fellows, you don't need to pull my ears off. Mr. Sholmes, where are you? Myself and my trusty partner are presently in the first-class cabin area of the SS Grouse. The SS Grouse? She left over last night, after the final pieces of cargo were loaded. We are currently docked at Dunkirk, but due to be underway again in half an hour. You've taken a ship to France. Please, even with my athletic prowess, I would struggle to jump the Straits of Dover. After we left Baker Street last night, we hurried by cab to the station and by train to the port. This is absolutely the most convenient tech. They have radio technology in this era where they still telegram.
in order to board this vessel in time. So, you mean you'd already worked it out? That the steamship was where everything really took place? Mr. Naruhodo, pray, what is my name? Herlock Sholmes, world-famous great detective. Recited to perfection. Well done. You're a genius, Mr. Sholmes. That's the only word for it. Ow, 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 ow. Miss Susato, gently with this genius's ear, please. Oh my, I'm ever so sorry. If I may, Sholmes. Ah, there you are, Mikotoba. You may remember that it was in fact I who made the connection to the SS Grouse. At Scotland Yard yesterday, when we examined that notebook and I recalled my steamship ticket. But of course it was, my dear fellow. And not once did I incontrovert that fact. I merely had our court-bound companions utter my name. Yes, you did, didn't you? We've just entered a recess. The trial resumes in 30 minutes from now. And if we're unable to present any new leads then, I'm afraid to say... Do not fret, please. It's for precisely that purpose that my partner and I have made this journey. I have no doubt we shall have welcome news for you within the half hour. Thank you, Mr. Sholmes. That would be wonderful. Until later, then. Yes, you'll be hearing from us if you're not in touch first. Ow, 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 ow. I shan't be hearing anything if you keep tugging my ear in that mindless fashion. Whatever was the idea behind making a receiver operate in that way in the first place, Sholmes? Why the deuce would I know? It's Iris' invention, not mine. It's time for... investigation. But with these two, whilst I know how much you enjoy being the hero of the hour, Sholmes, we have but half that now, before the grouse puts to sea again. If we don't conclude our investigations rapidly, we shall find ourselves in Naples before long. There are times, Mikotoba, when you make a surprising amount of sense. So, let us begin. First class cabin number 2. Yes, this is the one. But I don't believe an investigation of the cabin is going to be plain sailing. That crewman standing in front of the door is an angry-looking fellow. Why are you loitering here? Who are you? My dear fellow, do you not recognize the world-famous great detective when you see one? The question really ought to be, who are you? Do you not recognize world-traveling great sailor Chicken Stroganoff when you see? Great detective. Ha! I don't think so. Sholmes. Do you see that, Mikotoba? It would appear that this man is a devoted follower of mine. Goodness me, is that a tattoo? That says Sholmes. I must say, while such adoration is flattering naturally, it does leave me a little cold. What are you talking about? Leave, now! How distressing. My loyal devotee knows me only by name and not by appearance. And yet, I already know a great deal about you, sir. You have a brother, I believe. Like yourself, he's a shipman, currently traveling the world aboard a Russian steamship, in fact. How could you know this? Elementary, my dear Mikotoba. I'm sure it was. 3 days ago, I was bound for London aboard this ship, you see. We're looking for one of my fellow passengers, a man by the name of Jigoku. There is no one with this name on board, but we know that he purchased a ticket for passage. Ah, you mean Eastern man. He left ship 2 hours ago, here at Dunkirk. He said something about emergency, I think. What? Are you sure? So Seishio's realized that we're after him, has he? His cabin is the one behind you. We should like to investigate, please. No, I have orders to not let even mouse inside. Mikotoba, be a good man and draw the sailor's attention away, would you? Make up some excuse so that he leaves the area. Doesn't great detective see that even sailors have ears, both left and right? curses. The plan is ruined. And you have only yourself to blame, I'm afraid, Sholmes. Forget it. Cabin door is locked. Even if I am not here, you cannot get inside. Mikotova, I'm sure you haven't forgotten my special talents, have you? Opening any lock? Within a mere 5 seconds. So if you'd be so kind as to afford me the requisite time, old friend, in your typically accommodating manner. How could I refuse such a typically unappealing request, old friend? So I need to distract the burly sailor for 5 seconds, do I? Good man. So, the game is afoot. The mousetrap. This must be a mousetrap, I think. Perhaps I could distract the crewman's attention with this somehow. Choo choo. That sounds like Big Mouse and Trap. Choo choo. I will bring bucket of water later and put out of misery. I don't like the sound of that. In any case, my dear fellow, that was quite unconvincing. Only Japanese mice can make a chew sound. Oh, really, Sholmes? And pray tell, what do Russian sound do Russian sound mice make? P, naturally. Though, also quite unconvincing, I readily admit. So go ahead, Mikotova. Do a P this time. No, thank you. I'm sure I can come up with an alternative solution. My man's became Pikachu. Ah, the switch for the electrical lights. Perhaps if I were to turn off the lights, the crewman wouldn't be able to see what we were doing. I'll do it for... Oops. I was gonna do it for fun. No, I think not. That would never work, surely. I need to concoct another distraction. I was gonna do it for fun. Whee! Ah! What is happening? Where is light? Now, Sholmes, now! Sholmes can't see, so he can't do the work. Nobody there. That was a close shave. What a knack you have, stumbling so violently in an apparently empty corridor. Do be quiet, Sholmes. I shall have to think of another approach. That's a speaking tube for members of the crew to communicate with one another around the ship. If I could just persuade our stocky sailor friend that he needed to use it, Sholmes could unlock the doors while he was distracted. The question is, how? That's the way back to the deck, but we certainly can't give up on this now. Alright, I know what everyone wants me to do. Set off the alarm. This would appear to be an alarm bell. All hell would break loose if that thing were to ring. The whole crew would know about it. Well, goodbye. Here goes then. Pardon me in advance. You! What are you doing? If we were at sea, that would be a very bad problem. What's going on down there? Seaman Stroganoff, report at once. Sorry, sir. Nothing to report. It was just stupid trick. No, not by me. By world famous... No, as I told you. Now, Sholmes, now. Done. Not even 5 seconds, eh? Well, don't stand around gulping out my brilliance, Mikotova. In we go. Oh, yes. I can't believe that word. Good gracious. It would appear that the occupant of this cabin did indeed disembark rather hurriedly. Those clothes on the floor there, they're Seishiro's without question. Well, it seems we are just a little too late. Yes, by about 2 hours. Still, whilst we're here, we should investigate thoroughly. There may very well be 2 hours worth of clues to find here. But that burly crewman may return at any moment, Sholmes. Indeed he may, which makes this all the more thrilling. The ice is still here. Quite the exquisite glass, I must say. See here how it... Is something wrong, Sholmes? You suddenly trailed off. Ice, Mikotoba, ice. What opulence the first-class passengers enjoy. Chilled drinks. Pardon? Could it be that the steamship is equipped with an electrically refrigerated cold room, do you think? Uh-oh. Well, it is a luxury liner after all. They have enormous refrigerators for storing all sorts of lavish produce as well as ice. On our voyage from Japan, we enjoyed culinary delights from all over the world. Suddenly, Mikotoba, the sight of you is making my mouth water. Please don't leave me. I haven't taken on the flavor of the food I ate, you know. According to the report I was given, Naruhodo was concealing himself in Asogi's wardrobe. Indeed he was, and it was of a similar size to this one. Ah, you must climb inside yourself, my dear fellow. What? Whatever for? It was the site of my first fateful meeting with Mr. Naruhodo. You can experience the moment for yourself now, complete with my dramatic rhetoric. Come along now, in you go. This will only take a moment. Really, Sholmes, surely you can just tell me what you said. Well, I uttered some brilliant remark and opened the wardrobe to reveal the stowaway murderer. I think I'll just read about it in the Adventures of Herlock Sholmes. There's a speaking tube here, look, though it's been stoppered with some cloth. So the voices of the crewmen on the bridge aren't an annoyance, I suppose. Or indeed, so the voices in this cabin aren't heard elsewhere. Could something have happened here that was where no one else's ears, do you think? Either that, or it could be to prevent snakes from entering. That's really become a favorite case of yours, hasn't it? These are the rules of passage. Passengers must not keep weapons or other dangerous objects in their cabins. Pets are also strictly forbidden. Additionally, there are severe punishments for stowing away in wardrobes and or travel cases. I feel the rules have increased since I last read them. Probably just my imagination. What about the fact that they're not straight on the wall? Doesn't that strike you? You may be right. Probably just your imagination, though. A trifle. And you know what I always say, Mikotoba? There's nothing important about trifles. It's probably just my imagination, but I think that might be slightly off. Check the trash can. This is the waste paper basket, look. And it's still rubbish inside. Indeed, then let us pry. I've discovered recently I have a penchant for exploring the contents of others' waste paper baskets. I sincerely hope only for your work. Ah. Here we have a notice issued to passengers from 3 days ago. 3 days ago? The night before we arrived in London, then. When I was still aboard myself. Evacuation drill. Ah, yes. There was an evacuation drill. I remember now. For our safety and security, all first-class passengers were constantly under the watchful eye of the crew, so it was a welcome relief to have some privacy for once. Evidence? That's a very sizable trunk indeed. Seishiro was partial to all things large. And a rather clumsy fellow, if he failed to notice he left that behind. Perhaps he left it on purpose. It's lighter than you might think, but still hindrance to speedy escape. Pity. It's locked, so we can't look inside. Surely 5 seconds from now, the situation will be quite different, though. Sadly not. It has a 7-digit combination lock. And I'm not in a morose enough mood to work through all the combinations at present. That Seems suspicious. The walls are slightly different color just here. Do you see? Indeed. What you have observed arises when a frame that has been hanging for some time is removed. Perhaps your friend is an art thief. Now there's a bold deduction worthy of a great detective, I'm sure. He may very well be the elusive thief who has been plaguing France's galleries of late. I think perhaps we should focus our attentions elsewhere, Sholmes, don't you? Outline on the wall. I feel as though I might have spotted something of a similar shape and size elsewhere. Oh. You are still here. Ah, Mr. Able Seaman Stroganoff. Hello again. I was beginning to think you'd never materialize. Eh? You are waiting for me? Of course. I was expecting you to burst in with a hearty Russian profanity far sooner. I was in trouble with Captain because of trick you played before. Poor, innocent chicken. It is all your fault. I see. His name is Chicken Stroganoff. I'm hungry now, by the way. Ship is leaving port soon. Get off now. Of course, we shall disembark presently, my dear fellow, but first, there's something that must be done. What are you talking about? Why, naturally, the debunking of your deceit and the bearing of the truth. Kakoi! I'm afraid I see through your lies. For one thing... yes. Prelude to objection. For one thing, Mr. Jigoku has not yet left this vessel at all. Ah! And for another, my dear Seaman Stroganoff, you know exactly where the man is, even as we speak, don't you? Is he in the trunk? How can you? But gracious, Sholmes, you mean you've worked it out, all of it? It's really been too long, hasn't it, old friend? 10 years, no less. So, would you care to join me for a dance of my inimitable logic and reasoning? Nothing would please me more. What is this? We have but minutes until the vessel puts to sea. No games now. Time is of the essence. Partners. Mr. Stroganoff, allow me to remind you of your earlier claim. You told us that Jigoku left the ship some 2 hours ago. That is what I said. Sadly, that was a rather clumsy lie. You see, there is something in this room that quite clearly contradicts it. What? Ah, yes, of course. I see you've noted it too, Mikotoba. And please, do take the lead. What's in this cabin shows the impossibility of Jigoku having disembarked 2 hours ago. Let's see what the last 3 years have done to your observational skills then, Mikotoba. It's been 10 years since we last did this, Sholmes, not 3. Why, of course it has. Quite. Now, all the clues are here in this cabin for your eyes to see. But as I always say, you must not merely look, but observe. Observe, and the answers become clear. So impress me. I think I can manage that. Yes, we get to do it.
Take that!
Oh shit. we have animation budget. We have animation budget. Oh. Perhaps you should have cleared away that glass. How curious that the ice shouldn't have melted, despite it being abandoned 2 hours ago. Ah! It would appear the man was here in this very cabin until moments before our arrival, with this well-chilled glass in hand. Get your mind off the refreshment, Sholmes. One might even conclude that somebody informed him of our boarding. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Stroganoff? But why would Seishiro run from us? Before we consider that question, allow me to confirm one small matter. Would I be correct in saying that these first-class caverns of the SS Grouse are the same ones on which you and Mr. Jigoku were accommodated on your voyage from Japan? Ah, that's right, they are. I was in the cabin next door, and Seishiro was, yes, 50 days in this very cabin during our voyage, as I suspected. For you see, there are traces in this cabin of a dark secret Mr. Jigoku had to hide. What traces? I know nothing about this. Ah, this is news to you, is it, Mr. Stroganoff? Sholmes, what exactly are you getting at? As I said, there are traces in this cabin of some nefarious activity, something that appears to be out of place, which I'm sure won't have escaped your notice. Something out of place in here. That's the key to this, Mikotoba. The remnants of the dark deed that took place in here are being masked by something quite incongruous. I must say, I didn't foresee ever doing this dance of deduction with you again, Mikotoba. No, quite. But life is full of unexpected twists and turns, as we well know. Now then, let's see if I can't uncover the truth here. Yes, you have the floor, my dear fellow. The remnants. So they want this. They want the remnants.
Take that!
I think. Nope. Mikotoba, no games now were my words, were they not? Well, I got penalized? Come on, Sholmes. Where's the fun in life without a little fooling around, Quite right you are. That was a close shave. I'd better rethink that before I'm the fool here. Or maybe I had to inspect it. You must tilt your head to one side and listen carefully to the faint cries of the scene. Hear the evidence calling out for you to find it. Here I am, it cries. Well, your methods were never conventional. But you know I'm always willing to give them a try. Dear God, Mikotoba, open your eyes. It was a metaphorical listening that I was suggesting. Ah. Uh-oh. I'm really mean this.
Take that!
No? Getting ahead of myself again now.
Take that!
Okay. This is the remnants, like there's a tilting part remnants. I feel like the wall is like a bigger clue because there's like a clear missing photo. Whatever. It's the rules of passage in this frame here. They're obviously out of place. The way they're hanging crooked on the wall, as if they were put there in a hurry. Yes, as I'm sure you've already concluded, that frame was originally over there. The shape and size are a perfect match. Da! You are right. When did frame move? Hardly the most observant of crewmen, are you, Mr. Stroganoff? I would think your captain is quite justified in having his reservations about your reliability. Grr! Oh dear, that really seemed to touch the nerve. So, Mikotoba, why don't you lift that frame off the wall? Oh. That looks like a bullet hole. What? Who has been shooting walls? I see, the projectile has been removed. Clearly, the careful occupant of this room has already disposed of it. Now then, Mr. Stroganoff. I have the distinct impression that you're attempting to shield said occupant. I don't know what you are talking about. Why would I try to protect Eastern Stranger? Ah, so we're talking about the same man, I see. Good. Ugh. I'm sure we can get to the bottom of this in no time, aren't you? Because there's some very noteworthy evidence that explains the reason why you're lying for the man. Yes, you've been told to keep up this pretense, as clearly shown by... I really don't know how to approach this one, Sholmes. Ah, my dear Mikotoba, simply keep first principles in mind. Study your subject from every angle. And I'm quite sure that you'll see it. In fact, I'd put a wager on it. So I'm to glare at the frill from all sides. Well, I can certainly do that. He's looking to the side here. Ah, money. Every time they hide stuff under the text box.
Take that!
It's almost too obvious for words. Quite. The universal language of the world. Money. Ah! And I'd wager that the Eastern fellow in question is Seishiro Jigoku, yes? Gah! So, I presume you realize what this means. There are clear signs that a crime has been committed in this cabin, and the way you're going, sir, you'll find yourself accused of being an accomplice. But... I believe you know, Mr. Stroganoff. You know where Mr. Jigoku is hiding at this precise moment in time. As always, Mikotoba, in matters of deduction, the furtive glance is your unfaltering ally. Yes, I think you're onto something there, Sholmes. You found the chink in this burly fellow's armor. We need only follow the man's gaze to know where our prey is hiding. The slightest flicker of the pupils, a minutely delayed blink. Nothing escapes my attention, even that which is barely perceptible. You could hardly call this barely perceptible, Sholmes. The man's turned his entire head. It's not exactly what you describe as a furtive glance, is it? It's almost too obvious. We shall let your tapping shoes decide, my dear fellow. He's just straight looking at it.
Take that!
You turned immediately to look at this large trunk, didn't you? Ah! The truth is, Seishiro Jigoku was unable to escape from the ship in time, and is, at this very moment, doing his best to stifle his breath inside this trunk. If he still has a breath to take, I fear he may be running dangerously low on air. I imagine he didn't count on us making a nuisance of ourselves for quite so long. I think it will be in everyone's best interest for us to open the trunk as quickly as possible. But how can we? Are you forgetting about the combination lock? We don't know the 7-digit code. The combination lock can't be opened from the inside. The combination lock can't be opened from inside the trunk. Therefore, there must have been an arrangement for somebody to open it after our departure. Of course. In short, before Jigoku hid himself inside the trunk, he must have told somebody the 7-digit number for the lock. As I'm sure you can confirm, Mr. Stroganoff. No, I know nothing about combination code. It's on his arm, huh? Don't move a muscle, my good seaman. It's like very bad writing, though. Like it's upside down, right? But this would be like an A, not a 6. Or maybe he wrote it in the mirror. Huh? Now, Mikotoba, would you do the honors and open the trunk? How on earth do you expect me? It's a 7-digit number, remember? Quickly now, we have little time.
Okay, it's not a mirror because the 4 would be wrong. So this is like, this is a 5. This is a 5. This is, it's only a 5-digit number. What the hell is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, what the hell's, or actually, yeah, so this is the end. What's the end? This is a 5. Oops. Because the 4, if we have look upside down, the 4. This is a 0. This is a 1. This is a 3. I guess this has to be the 2 then.
Take that!
That did it. It's open. You had to meddle, didn't you? Well, Eugen, you found me now. Seishiro.
Well, because it only goes to 5, we can conclude that it's not a 6.
I was really hoping beyond hope to not find you here, you know. But you're not entirely unsurprised, I take it?
No, quite.
I just wish there were some other way.
Well, are you ever going to introduce me?
Ah, your reputation precedes you, Mr. Sholmes. I've heard stories of many of your exploits.
Excuse my manners, Sholmes. This is Mr. Jigoku, my old friend and traveling companion. The devil is in the details, Mikotoba. I believe you meant to say your old friend and traveling companion who made the cowardly decision to flee the country without a word to anyone when things turned sour.
I see my reputation precedes me as well. What an honor.
Well, Seishiro, are you going to explain all this?
You know it all by now, I imagine. What you didn't know, of course, is that 3 days ago, on the night before our arrival in Britain, an attempt was made on my life here on this very ship.
By the Reaper of the Bailey.
Yes, I've since heard.
Because you were once prosecuted by the Reaper, weren't you? 10 years ago now, mind you.
And I had no idea at the time what a dangerous individual he was. Anyway, when we arrived in London to find the symposium was postponed until goodness knows when, it became all too apparent to me that I might very well be targeted again.
So you decided to flee the capital without saying a word to me about it?
I'm afraid so, yes. Of course, I realize now that I really ought to have confided in you.
It's somewhat surprising, I must say.
What is?
Well, first-class cabins aboard luxury steamships are in very short supply. It's more than a little hard to believe that this one just happened to be available.
So says the protagonist of some colorful short stories. Well, I don't care for your opinion. A cabin did just happen to be available, so I purchased a ticket, and here I am. I've seen just for myself the obvious remnants of that incident in this cabin.
So you'd already purchased your return ticket before we even docked in Dover, had you? To prevent anyone else taking this cabin and seeing the evidence. Is that it?
Eugen, I have nothing to say to you.
Well, in a mere 5 minutes, this ship will set off on its onward voyage and not make port again until Italy. I'm afraid we must insist that you disembark with us at once.
You have no jurisdiction over my movements. We have this, Seishiro.
Take it.
What is it?
It's a subpoena from the Old Bailey.
You're a man of the law.
You know what the ramifications of ignoring a document like this are from the British courts would be.
You came prepared then, Yujin. Come on, let's go. One moment. What is it, Sholmes? Inside Mr. Jigoku's trunk. I found this rather fascinating trinket. Oh no, it's the pocket watch. What is that? Say, Shiro. I can't help you, I'm afraid. Some small component from something. But what? I have no idea. By the look on his face, I think he genuinely doesn't know. Well, let's pocket it as a small souvenir of our brief sojourn in France. Well, young Naruhodo, I think we've done as much as we can, I'm afraid. The rest will be on the shoulders of you and your assistant. Kazuma Asogi, I know you wouldn't lie, but still, there's no doubt that you're holding something back. You know more than you're saying. During the past 30 minutes, while this court was adjourned, all possible efforts were expended, but sadly, Mr. Jigoku's whereabouts could not be ascertained. We must accept the unfortunate conclusion. The Reaper has already done the deed. What? How long did we take? There's no sense in wasting any more of this court's time. The prosecution calls for an immediate verdict.
Objection!
No, the trial cannot end now. You're a Japanese man, Ryunosuke. You should know when to lay down your sword. And you should know never to presume when the battle is won. The court has already been presented with all the evidence and heard all relevant testimony, and there can only be one conclusion, that the accused is guilty. All relevant testimony? Far from it. There's still a crucial witness from whom the court is yet to hear a single word of testimony. In that case, call your witness to stand at once, counsel. Yes, my lord. Tomorrow, if possible. The witness is already on his way and scheduled to arrive tomorrow. Who on earth is this crucial witness? Seishiro Jigoku, the very man allegedly murdered by the Reaper. Judge Jigoku, you found him. But the investigations of every policing resource in the capital suggest that Jigoku is already dead. How in the name of God did you find the man? He was located in France during the recess at the port of Dunkirk. Thanks to one of Mr. Herlock Sholmes' famous deductions. Herlock Sholmes. Inspector Gregson almost certainly met with Mr. Jigoku on the night of his death, because along with Prosecutor Asogi, Gregson was on a mission to assassinate the man. Which means that Seishiro Jigoku is the sole witness who can clarify exactly what happened aboard the SS Grouse on 31st October. Well, it would appear that it's too soon to move to adjudication at this point. The prosecution concurs. The court must hear Mr. Jigoku's testimony. No judgment should be passed until all testimony has been considered. In that case, I hereby call the end of today's proceedings. Court will reconvene at the same hour tomorrow. No objections from either side. No, my lord. No objections, my lord. We live to fight another day, by the skin of our teeth. Well, it's only been about like 2 hours, so I guess enjoy the 6 hours of death. The unexpected halt of proceedings set a clamor around the courtroom. Outside the Bailey, where Londoners knew nothing of the secret trial within, it was a typical still night. Then, at a little past 8 o'clock that evening, Mr. Sholmes and his partner returned to Baker Street. Uh-oh. Is there an investigation? I guess we'll do the investigation, and we'll see where we're at after that. We have returned, my dear fellows. Welcome back to Britain, and thank you for your timely help. Think nothing of it. I believe you've had an even more wearing day than Mikotoba and I know. You could say that. We were on the brink of defeat in the court earlier. So this prosecutor, Asogi, had you on the ropes, did he? And he's your best friend, you say? Well, he's not really the man I knew in Japan anymore. Kazuma's changed. Oh, Mr. Naruhodo. I mean, it's incredible. To think that he'd even entertain the idea of acting as the Reaper's assassin. Well, nevertheless, you must introduce me. After all, I've only ever met the young man as a corpse. When all this started, almost a year ago now. Mr. Sholmes still hasn't told us the truth about what really happened back then. About the motivation for what he himself described as a great detective's lie. Now then, I must say, it's really quite a journey all the way to France. Well, it is another country, Mr. Sholmes. So, what news of Judge Jigoku? We took him to Scotland Yard. The investigating detectives there have a lot of questions for the man. Poor Professor Mikotoba. This must be quite a shock for him. Ah, yes. I picked this up at the telegraph office on our way home. What is it? Surely you haven't forgotten already. I put upon you for the matter only yesterday. You put upon me, Sholmes. I had to fill out your telegram to Japan and foot the bill as usual. Oh, you've had a reply already? What was so urgent though, Mr. Sholmes? Such matters can wait until later. I'm far too hungry for an involved conversation at present. Well, that's good news, because supper is ready, everyone. Ah, what a feast it is. If I were none the wiser, I'd think the trial's won already. Roast beef, kippers, stew, steak and kidney pie, Yorkshire pudding. Tomorrow could be a very long day, so eat up. In that case, I think I'll seat myself just here. This place appears to be the only one set with a helping of pheasant as well. Oh, sorry, Hurley, not there. Why ever not? Are we in set places this evening? Yes, and that place is for Susie's daddy. For me? That's right. I made it especially for you, Professor Mickey. I see. Well, that's terribly kind of you. It's a shame, really. What do you mean? Well, for a brief moment, I believed it. That Susie and I were half-sisters, I mean. Oh. Iris, do you mean... Yes, I know now. I hovered yesterday. I secretly listened in to the conversation you had after I tricked you all into thinking I'd left. What? A misunderstanding arose because of that autopsy report from 10 years ago. But actually, it turned out that neither Dr. Wilson nor Professor Mikotoba are Iris' father. Yes, about that, Iris. You know I know. You can't tell me at the moment. Oh, Iris. The pheasant is by way of an apology. I'm sorry for eavesdropping. Oh, no, that's quite alright. Then why don't I get any apologetic pheasant? So just who is Iris' father? I suppose that's not something we'll be finding out today. will we? So then, let us dine, while our largely pheasantless plates are still piping hot. A fine idea, Sholmes. It all looks absolutely delicious. Eat as much as you like. There are always seconds. This could be our last chance to ask questions before tomorrow's trial. About that telegram from Japan, and about Kazuma. Can't let this opportunity slip away. Mr. Sholmes? What are you doing? Surely, it's abundantly clear that I wasn't brooding over Mikotova's refusal to share his pheasant with me. Nevertheless, I felt the need to withdraw from the social circle for a while and look on with hungry eyes. Sorry, Hurley, but I cooked that pheasant especially for Susie's daddy. Even though I played the role of father to you for far longer. Mr. Sholmes? Could I discuss some things with you? Certainly, my dear fellow. I find myself in quite the mood for a spell of conversation. No doubt, you're hungry to learn more of my deep love of game. I can probably contain my curiosity in that one. You needn't look at me in that fashion. In what fashion? It seems that before we discuss the pheasant, we have some rather unpheasant matters to discuss. So, what was in the telegram you received back from Japan then? Ah, this. I think my lucky stars had arrived in time. Record found as indicated. Duplicate follows. K. Asogi, A. Shin. T. Gregson, J. Wilson. What? Those 4 names? We've come across the exact same list before. They came up in that unforgettable case last spring. What appeared to be a simple case of aggravated murder turned out to be masking monumental intrigue. A plot that involved the sale of British governmental secrets to foreign states. In exposing the means by which those secrets were being leaked, we deciphered a fragment of a message. Oh, this must be like the Morse code from like the first game, the last case. K. Asogi, A. Shin. T. Gregson, J. Wilson. But we didn't find the names out until the case was over, and we never did get to the bottom of what they meant. All we knew was that the information has been sent by somebody in the British government to somebody in Japan. So, why are the names coming up again now? Yes, where did the sender of your telegram discover them? Oh, where did the sender of the telegram discover them? Where? I have here the message I had wired yesterday. Allow me to read it to you. Enter Judge Shikoku's office undetected and investigate the telegram records. Expect to find communication from Britain dated 1 year ago. List of 4 names. Need by tomorrow. Naruhodo. I sent it to a detective I know who specializes in clandestine missions of this nature. You asked Inspector Hosonaga to undertake such an onerous task for you? And in my name? I wonder what guise he opted for this time. My dear fellows, it was a matter of great urgency, you understand. Anyway, the list of names was found in Seishiro's office, as Sholmes predicted. So you mean that mysterious collection of names that was sent from Britain to Japan was... It was sent to Judge Shikoku. He was the intended recipient. I don't believe it. But that doesn't answer the question of what the list of names actually signifies. I did formulate a hypothesis about that. but without a shred of evidence, I couldn't possibly have shared it. Mr. Sholmes looks deadly serious for once. That tragedy we had to go through in the SS Buria, it was all for nothing. Kazuma wasn't dead at all. We were completely taken in by the lie you told us. Your great detective's lie. I took no pleasure in deceiving you. However, at the time, all that concerned me was preventing the young man's study tour from taking place, whatever the cost. What? I capitalized on the events that transpired to see that he was sent back to Japan. His remains, you mean? Precisely, Miss Susato. And then, I made sure that somebody else was sent to Britain in his stead. Oh my, you mean... The arrangement between the two countries was already in place. One university student lawyer and one judicial assistant to be accommodated on a study tour. In other words, by arranging for someone else to fill the place originally intended for Mr. Asogi. I will successfully prevent the man from arriving on our shores for several years at least. Wait, do you mean to say that it was all in aid of stopping Kazuma from coming to Britain? That's why you... Think back, Mr. Naruhodo. Was there not somebody who quite casually urged you to continue on the voyage to England? The terms of the study tour were negotiated by the Department of Justice in both Great Britain and Japan. In the light of Mr. Asogi's unfortunate death, I'm afraid the study tour can no longer go ahead. My dear fellows, the majority of problems have an extremely simple solution, you know. All you require is one lawyer, and the study tour can continue, surely. But there's no one else with the necessary qualifications, Mr. Sholmes. We know of no other lawyer. The voyage to London still promises a good month of time. Ample opportunity, I would say, to find yourselves another suitable lawyer. So, you manipulated me? I've often remarked on the extraordinary lengths to which friendship will drive a man. I was quite sure that you would rise to the challenge for your late friend. I don't believe it. But if it was all contrived... I mean, what happened was treated by the authorities as murder. A woman was mistakenly arrested as the perpetrator. What do you suppose became of her? Naturally, I didn't allow the misapprehension to have any serious repercussions. I subsequently explained everything and assisted the unfortunate soul in finding the foreign refuge she sought. I seem to remember Miss Susato and I had some rather strong words for her. Well, she was certainly not devoid of all guilt. She deserved every word, I'm sure. I wonder if she made it to America then. I'm afraid I simply cannot comprehend it. Why would you go to such lengths, Mr. Sholmes? Why were you so determined to stop Kazuma-sama from reaching Britain? The truth is, 12 months ago, it was already a very tangible omen of the impending tragedy, you see. Oh. An omen that, at this very moment in time, is close at hand. An omen of all these tragic events that already existed a year ago is close at hand? We need to find out exactly what Mr. Sholmes knows. Damn it. I guess he wants the omen? Let's see. What does he want?
An omen a year ago. Do I have anything? I will present the armband. Oh, no text. There was no room for doubt with your instructions in this telegram, Mr. Sholmes. You were very clear that it was Judge Goku's office that should be searched. So, you obviously knew that's where the list of names would be found. K. Asogi, A. Shin, T. Gregson, J. Wilson. But we only learned of those 4 names just over 6 months ago now, and only because they appeared as part of the top secret government communications that were leaked. That's true, yes? But at the time, you were unaware of the background. You see, those 4 names were wired to Japan around 6 months before that, approximately this time last year, in fact, when you were both still in Japan. It would really be hypocrisy on my part to reprove others for intercepting state secrets, because after all, I am perpetually eavesdropping on communications between the British and Japanese governments. I see. You're perpetually doing what? How? Never mind the details, but you should know. No secret is safe from Herlock Sholmes when he has designs on knowing it. Oh my, Mr. Sholmes, what a fabulous line. Now, 1 month after that list of 4 names was wired to the recipient Jigoku in Japan, Dr. John H. Wilson was murdered. As soon as I learned of the incident, a hypothesis rapidly took shape in my mind. As it turned out, I was partially correct and partially mistaken. Nevertheless, it was the beginning of all the tragic events that were to follow. Mr. Sholmes, please, tell us all you know. Tell us about these 4 names and the tragedy to which they're all somehow connected. As I said, when I learned of Dr. Wilson's murder in Japan, my mind immediately turned to those 4 names. Because you see, there was someone else on the list who I believe to be recently deceased. What? Who? A. Shin, as it was transcribed in Japanese script. In actual fact, Miss Asa Shin. That was a familiar name to me. She was a professional killer, well known among London's unsavory classes. Oh, I see. But she had completely vanished from existence several months before Wilson's murder. So I came to the logical conclusion that she had herself been killed. And accordingly, I became fearful for the lives of the remaining 2 persons on the list. Ah, K. Asogi and T. Gregson. Owing to our proximity, I decided to take measures to protect Gregson myself. But I determined it would be safest if young Asogi were to stay away from Britain. Ah, so that's why you went to such lengths to prevent his study tour from going ahead. Exactly. So, you already knew who Kazuma-sama was, Mr. Sholmes. Oh yes, Sholmes and I have exchanged correspondence for years. I'd recounted many tales about Asogi to him in my letters, and the news of Dr. Wilson's death, of course. So, Dr. Wilson is dead then? I didn't know. Oh, Iris. I know he wasn't my daddy, but still, that's very sad. I'm so sorry, Iris. We knew the significance of the name, obviously, but we just couldn't bring ourselves to tell you. No. But what you just told us, Mr. Sholmes, doesn't completely tie in with the facts. There's one big hole in your hypothesis. A big hole, Mr. Naruto? Ah, yes. You mean about Asa Shin, I presume? Oh, of course. Exactly. She wasn't killed, was she?
she was in Japan, posing as a visiting student under the assumed name of Giselle Brett. I'm glad you're keeping up, my dear fellow, but I only became aware of that fact 2 days ago in the foyer of the Great Waterloo Hotel. Ah. And upon hearing that startling revelation, the hypothesis that I'd formed surrounding those 4 names was completely turned topsy. What? Topsy? What do you mean by when you say your hypothesis was turned topsy, Mr. Sholmes? I had believed that all 4 names on the list to be the names of victims. However, I was mistaken. Very much so. Asa Shin was a killer. So this telegram is a list of both victims and killers, is it? Indeed. And it would seem that Miss Shin was dispatched from Britain with the sole intention of dispatching Dr. Wilson, her visiting student status being merely a front. Ah. Which would of course explain why no motive could be determined for her actions. So the real reason Dr. Wilson was killed by Asa Shin is because he was the target of assassination. And forearmed with that knowledge, press consideration of this telegram puts the list in a very different perspective. What do you mean? Well, does it not strike you? There's another among the 4 who subsequently became a visiting student. Wait, you mean... But of course, a name you know only too well. You mean Kazuma? Oh! He did say in court earlier today. Yes, on 31st October, I accompanied Inspector Gregson to Dunkirk in order to carry out a mission. And the mission was the assassination of the Mark. Ah. Young Mr. Sogi accepted that mission a year ago now. Surely not. In conclusion, this document is a contract of sorts. An international agreement, one might say, detailing an assassin exchange. An assassin exchange? How could Cosmo possibly have gotten involved in something like that? Let's assume that we have 2 parties, each wishing to dispose of a distinct individual. These 2 parties then make a contract to swap their respective assassination targets. That would then be an assassin exchange. So to begin with, the British assassin is dispatched as a visiting student to Japan, where she kills her target. And then, the Japanese assassin is dispatched as a visiting student to Britain in order to eliminate his target. It certainly does sound like an exchange, but what on earth is the point? Don't forget, Naruto, that the British assassin at least escaped conviction, thanks to the diplomatic immunity afforded by consular jurisdiction. Oh yes. Such jurisdiction should be null and void under the terms of the new treaty between our 2 countries. So the fact that it was brought into play suggests interventions at the very highest levels. The highest levels? These murders were the 2 sides of the same coin, linked by not a common motive, but by contractual agreement. As such, they appeared utterly unrelated, yet in truth, the assassins were complicit in one singular devilish scheme. That disassociation and the safeguard of diplomatic immunity were, I believe, the motivation behind this plot. But wait a minute, Sholmes. If this telegram really is describing the exchange of the assassins, as you're suggesting, it would mean that Japanese killer's target was never Seishiro Jigoku at all. It would mean Asogi's target was actually Inspector Gregson. What? Cosmo was here for Gregson? So Judge Jigoku wasn't actually the mark? Yes, that's exactly what it would mean. I hold myself personally responsible for failing to keep the inspector safe. Mr. Sholmes. I told him of my fears and I implored him to seek a transfer to an overseas position. Obviously, with a young pickpocket in tow. Yes, Gina. Come to think of it, Inspector Gregson did mention that to us at the Great Exhibition, that he'd be transferring to the Paris police and taking Gina with him. But without informing me, he engaged in one last assignment, it seems. And sadly, it turned out to be his very last. This is too much to take in. Alright everyone, that's quite enough of all that serious talk for one day. Isn't it, Hurley? I mean, look at the time. Ah, quite right, Iris. We must conclude our preparations for tomorrow. What preparations? Well, I think I shall make my way back to my hotel room now. This has certainly been a night to remember. It is. A little bit sad, though. I mean, I like the idea of you being my daddy. Because then, Susie would have been my big sister. I'm sorry, Iris. I know, Iris. I was thinking quite the same thing. Were you? But if somebody like me would be worthy, I would be delighted to become your sister. What? Really? Oh yes, without question. So, you'll teach me all the ways you know to throw Runo to the floor. Yes, yes, of course. It would be my pleasure. You didn't have to agree quite so readily. Oh, but wait a minute. If Susie's going to be my big sister, you could be my big brother if you want, Runo. Huh? I mean, yes, of course. If you'll have me, I'll gladly be your brother. Well done, Iris. We must always be mindful of feelings. I raised you so well. Because being sensitive is your strong suit, naturally. Right. I'm going to work extra hard for tomorrow now, because it's for my big brother and sister. What is all this talk about preparing for tomorrow? Preparing what? Hee hee. You'll just have to wait and see. Oh. Good luck in court tomorrow. I'm expecting a sterling performance. I'll do my very best, of course. So the overnight break in the trial's proceedings became a crucial turning point, exposing new truths while posing new conundrums. I'll list the 4 names on the telegram in Judge Jigoku's office. An extraordinary assassination plot in which my best friend had somehow become involved. I felt as though I had been plunged into an even greater darkness all of a sudden. But at the same time, I felt sure I would see the light again soon. Because I was lucky enough to have the most wonderful family in the world standing steadfastly behind me.